So let me start with you, Avnish, first. I think two questions may be related. I think, when you decided to get into BSc, from your experience as an operator in CaratLane, BSc was trying to do something similar, though in a different category, right? So how did you guys think about BSc in terms of their journey, in terms of what they were doing, and what were you really excited about?
See, one is that I thought.
Sorry, this is the first time I'm going to be hearing this as well. Yeah, so
So I think, see, the first thing was that I think the brand was already, I would say, reasonably well known. And the brand, in a way, was bigger than the business at that point in time. So, it's actually harder to build the brand in so many examples. So that was one good thing. The other thing which we have always valued a lot in CaratLane, and which I also value a lot, is that the core offering should be very strong, right? And there should be a reason or a right for that company to win. And I thought that, or rather, we thought that that was there in BSc, right? Because it was a differentiated take on fashion, and it allowed for experience and service to become differentiators and levers of the business. So there were multiple levers which a business like this had, the way the model was created, which could allow for a very strong moat to be created, right? And for something which people would value, pay more for, which could allow for better gross margins. So at least it had the ingredients of something which actually could become like CaratLane, right? That the core thing was strong. I personally feel that experience is something which very few people understand and value when it comes to building a brand and a business, which is very much possible in this category, right? Many categories it doesn't allow. Like when you go to a Louis Philippe, there's no experiential element over there. So I think having all of these levers in the business was a very important. Actually, that was the reason, right? Because we felt that you could actually almost replicate the CaratLane model, although it looks as if there are two different categories.
Correct.
But I think bespoke clothes are to men what jewelry is to women in some ways.
Correct. So coming to now the art piece, Chippy, right, which is what you've been kind of involved with. And I think while you guys sell a bloody good shirt, right, I think there is the process of selling that shirt, right? And I believe that when a customer walks out of the store, right, he's not only bought a piece of garment, but he's bought a piece of the experience, right? And that is what kind of stays on with him. And maybe that's what motivates him to come back again, right? Right. So how do you guys focus on building that piece, in terms of the experience, in terms of the repeatability of that experience, making sure that the Kalagora store and the guy in Ahmedabad are delivering a equivalent experience, if not similar, right? So how do you do that?
Operations, so what you're talking about is just constant, non-stop execution, right? It's just daily rigor. There is no aha moment. There is no sense of anyone at the store level trying to understand anything beyond what the customer's requiring at that point. So getting your operations in check when it comes from the customer entering the store to interacting with our sales teams, to getting the product, the communication that goes beyond that product. So I think with Avnish and team coming on board has been very helpful also, because we were focusing a lot on product. We were focusing a lot on the imagery that we were putting out there, but the re-energized focus on pure daily rigor at the stores, where we even now very soon creating a whole audit system. I think everybody talks about audits being an accounting function, where we are now creating a audit structure for our frontline staff, right? So where you call a call center and they're like, this call is going to be recorded for training and quality purposes. God knows what they do behind the scenes over there, because I don't think I ever get a great call or service from a call center. But I think our objective out here is to constantly focus on that, let the teams understand and be aware of the fact that there is monitoring happening at the back end. And without that experience being absolutely 100%, you're not going to get the lifetime repeat and the retention that you're looking for.
So, Avnish, the next question is really to you. As they say that building the business from zero to maybe the first 100 crores, right, is a really tough journey, right? Because you're trying to get the product market fit right, you're trying to build a brand, you're trying to get customers in the door, then you're probably trying to generate word of mouth. You're working that additional extra mile to make sure that everything goes well, right? But then they say that the journey from 100 to 200 maybe becomes a little easier, right? So I think maybe BSCA is at a stage where, and I want to just draw a parallel to your journey from CaratLane, that how do you see now the journey for BSC going from the 100 to 200 crores, right? What are the different kind of skill sets or different processes or different building blocks they would need, which are different from the first 100,
See, let's look at all their levers, right? I think one big lever obviously is store expansion. And there is generally this, what I've seen in many businesses that you open a few stores, they do well, and then you get into this greed of quickly opening more without fully establishing the playbook and how that playbook will get executed in Ludhiana also, without you having to look at it, right? So that the entire system knows how to use it, and you can monitor if it is not being executed well, then something should, trigger an alarm if it is not going well. And again, very few people know this, but there is a reason why we stayed at some 12 to 14 stores for almost a couple of years, because the playbook was not in place. We didn't feel comfortable. And the playbook involves where you open stores, how you hire, the merchandise, marketing, all such things, right? Because you make these mistakes are very expensive. So I think the playbook, we are, I think, in the process of getting it in place. The other thing is, to get the other levers in place. The other lever obviously is retention. The other lever is merchandise, because we have got some categories working very well. But I think the other categories which we have introduced and the ones which we want to introduce, to make sure that we have got that right, getting our supply chain, the way we sell that. And I think once those are ready, and will be this temptation to quickly expand. But if we resist that temptation and we are sure that we now have the fundamental pieces in place, then I think the 100 to 200 journey from then it becomes much easier, I would say. It gets harder after 500 again.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. No, so I just want to maybe delve a little deeper on this question of expand when you are ready.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the whole idea of you being ready and when you are in the context, right? It's a difficult question to answer.
The
right?
temptation is there, right? Because
Correct.
everybody feels, somehow we have this FOMO.
Correct.
That if we don't do it, somebody else will come.
Correct.
The good locations will get taken.
Correct.
Or the customers will become loyal to some other brand.
Correct.
But we are in a category where I think we don't have to. We are not in the quick commerce business.
Correct.
Where there is a, like this
Land grab
happening. So I don't think we should worry about that. But, this is very, very fundamental human nature, right? The temptation. And I think if we all resisted temptation, then we'll all become sage philosophers, which is hard.
Right.
But I think that is what we have to do.
Right.
I'd like to add to that. Avnish has covered in terms of the, getting the product right, getting the, the retail playbook right, the expansion right, to get from 100 to 200.
Yeah.
We've just, touched a 100 crore milestone now, and looking at the next milestone being 200. I think to me, and I'll run myself down over here as well as my partner, is I think the journey from 100 to 200 has to first be internalized by the founders, and there are some founders over here as well, is to upskill, learn, and, go through all the trials and, failures to actually then realize that you yourself also need to get ready for that 200 journey. So it's very easy, as founders saying, I've got all these, 10 HODs and, somebody's not doing his job, somebody's not doing her job. You got to do your job well, right, as well. So it's, first of all, it starts over there. And I think culturally, once you understand that and accept that, then to have your team absorb that whole culture and say, okay, hey, listen, we're a team today of everyone taking decisions, right? It's not founder-driven decisions. You can't have founder-driven decisions on every small little thing when you're a 200 crore company. You can do it when you're 50 crores and 100 crores. You cannot do it when you're 200. As I firmly believe that. And therefore, I think it's a journey for Akshay and me as well. And then to be able to empower our senior leadership to say, hey, listen, now you guys have to take this forward with us. So getting that culture is very important. And I think where Avnish has helped us a lot is to imbibe the whole data-centric approach. Because if you empower people by having them share their opinions and take decisions, that's not helping. The real benefit comes in when they are fully data centric, they are number driven, analytical driven, and taking decisions based on all that data. And I think then it allows us to also trust.
See, that's the only way delegation can happen.
Right.
Because I'll give you an example of store location. Typically, it's been that a BD will go and will do an eye test saying your location acha hai based on something in their cut.
Yeah.
And then when the mistake happens, they will come up with 5 reasons कि अब वहाँ पे flyover बन गया and all of that nonsense, right?
Correct.
But when it is a very data-driven model, basically, see, that is the only way you can transfer the whatever is in the gut or whatever know-how is there with the head of sales or with the head of BD to a more junior person also. So I think it is the communication of know-how which happens, and that is part of the playbook essentially. You know, when you take marketing decisions to drive traffic to a store, it should not be every time it's a new problem and people are breaking their head and you're just focusing on that store. There should be a playbook that every time you open a new store, you know exactly what has to be done.
Maybe change gears and move to another side of building a business, and I think it'll be relevant to quite a few people here, which is around building the brand, right? And today maybe somebody who's done it and somebody who's in the process of doing it. We've seen brands really strong brands are clearly have a strong consumer preference, right? And it's not just about sell. They stand for something. There is a preference. There is maybe recommendation. There is word of mouth, right? So in today's context, where I think where everything is about quick outcomes, right? Building a brand seems like a much more difficult task than earlier. So how did you think about building the CaratLane brand, right? In this journey, how did you resist the temptation of only doing performance versus, investing behind brand building? And what kind of balances were you able to strike?
See, actually, I don't think that we did everything right, obviously, right? CaratLane ka brand was actually built on design and experience first, and much later on, imagery and communication. I think we got those two pieces right. And I think this is another fallacy which people have, that, the way to build a brand is through a lot of marketing and communication. I think, and I can say this with enough confidence, having looked at enough data and even financial evidence, right? Because margin is also an outcome of brand, right? If you can charge a premium, if you have better gross margin, that also comes from brand, right? And in CaratLane's case, it happened because of experience and it happened because of design. And much later because of communication and imagery. And in BSC's case, we're actually going the other way around, because they already have a very good sense of imagery and communication.
Correct.
And that is in a way what has helped create the brand what it is today. But and we anyways have to keep building on that. But I think now we can also use the levers of great experience and great merchandise to build the other parts which can create a great brand. And you're absolutely right, there's no shortcut to this.
Yeah. So, Chippy, in terms of your journey of creating the brand at BSC, right? Obviously, BSC started with maybe a new concept, right, of saying made-to-measure shirts, right? And I think, like in CaratLane's case, maybe it was the design, maybe it was let's say, the uniqueness of each piece, right, that drove customers to liking the brand. In your case, maybe it was the concept in itself that, come on, let me go get measured and see what comes out of it. What do you think are the other pillars that now you need to focus on, having accomplished some of the stuff, like maybe you've got the product right, maybe you've got the merchandise right. Now, in terms of building the brand further, what are the other elements that
Ashish, I think product I think we are halfway there. I think the shirt is something which people love, but I think we have to keep building the.
Correct.
So somewhere we are, I think, still in the middle of that journey.
So it could be maybe more categories.
Yeah.
It could be just a differentiated experience further, right? Maybe you're doing a lot in terms of differentiating the experience. Like, for example, the coffee machines, right, in the store where you're not under pressure to buy. So how does one think about this as part of your next journey now that you've accomplished the first part?
So, I mean, couple of things, right, in terms of, especially with regards to product. The shirt, we're called Bombay Shirt Company. People come to us for shirts. When they think of shirts, they think of us. I think about 3 years ago, we were about 85% shirts and 15% rest of category. Today, we are at about 70% shirts and 30% rest of category. And I think to ultimately build this brand out, you do need to build the name and fame of a men's lifestyle space. If you get into a certain niche of made to measure shirts, then scalability can become an issue. Right? You'll get into this corner and you'll be comfortable in that corner. And it happened to us actually for a bunch of years. There've been a lot of work that we have done at the back end to expand our category, not just in terms of jackets and pants and denim, but we've actually now ventured also into ready-made shirts. Now that becomes a big funnel opener for customers who might want to spend, who aspire to be part of the brand, but say, okay, hey, listen, I want something a little bit easy. I don't want to go through this whole cognitive process of designing a shirt. I don't know how it's going to come out. So making it easy for a new customer, for acquisition to happen at a 2,000 rupee category, ready to wear shirt, it kind of opens up that market for us. So there's a lot of focus that we are putting in to make sure that we get all these options accessible and available to a customer for us to then be able to again get to 200, right? That's the next milestone.
My next question is a slightly controversial one, right? Because there's a lot of pressure on the business from investors, from other stakeholders in terms of we need to get same store sales growth up and going, right? And that pressure obviously, flows through the system, right, onto the front end store staff, right? Now the question is, how do you define that fine line between, right, excessive selling and selling right, where at selling right, maybe the experience is optimal. At excessive selling, you destroy the experience, right? So how does one think about this whole, and if you don't sell enough, you're stuck with this issue of same store sale growth because you have that many customers coming in, right? So how do you figure out and define this fine line between selling right and selling excessively, right? Any pearls of wisdom?
First, I think one mistake which most store-driven brands do is that the entire incentive or entire performance of a store team is based on revenue, which obviously then changes their alignment and the message which you're giving to them. And actually, revenue is an outcome. If you do the merchandising really well, that every time I walk into the store, I see nice stuff which I want to buy immediately. If the messaging which comes from the brand always tells me and I feel as if they really know my taste and they're sending me very, very specific stuff which I will like. Every time I walk into the store, I feel they already know me and they know what I will like and they know the small intricacies of my preferences they have remembered from the last visit or my previous purchases. If the retention engine is really, really working well, if these pieces are in place, there is no need for excessive selling. So it's also very important that those behaviors should also be equally, there is more pressure which is put on those parts. So if there's enough pressure and enough focus on getting merchandise right at a store level, not just at a national level, if there's enough focus on making sure that the retention engine is working well, if you are measuring the experience correctly and not just getting fooled by your NPS, then, there is no need for excessive selling. Then sales will automatically happen. So in a way, sales, if there is excessive selling happening, it's like temperature being high in your body, that something is wrong, but you don't know what it is wrong. So I think an audit process also, which allows you to figure out which of the pieces in the store is not working well, is equally important. But ek tarah se the focus on the right behaviors and not just on the outcome is what is needed. And honestly, actually, CaratLane maybe only 30% of the incentive for sales staff is on revenue. So you don't.
So yeah.
So we're actually
customer experience, repeat.
So yeah, I mean that's what I was just about to say is that we've actually starting that from Jan 1st onwards.
Yeah.
We'd had a little bit of pressure on November, December. Sorry.
I said conversion. Conversion is the other thing, which people don't think is store mein zarurat hai. When you look at an online business, everybody will be over obsessed about conversion. But in the store, all of that is a black box and people think there's no conversion element. If you ask stores, they will tell you our conversion is 95% and there is nothing needed on that. But that is never the case. So the effort which is needed also to figure out the right conversion and how much you're missing out on separately for new and repeat customers is also needed.
So that's exactly what he said. Is that it was an eye opener for us, right? When our stores report 85% conversion, you can first of all just take that to 75%, right? Because there's a little bit of exaggeration. Couple of like maybe two men came into shop, but only one shopped, and the store will report that as one footfall. So let's take 85 at 75. At 75, if you've got more than 50% of your business coming from repeat customers who are obviously converting at 100%. So that means your repeat customers are at 100. That means your new customers are only converting 50%. Now, that was a very scary figure when we realized. It's obviously encouraging because we have headroom to grow and for improvement. But what that means is that our new customers only converting at 50%. And that was a learning point. And to the other points that you just mentioned before this, right? From Jan 1st onwards, we are now starting incentivizing different stores at different metrics. Earlier on, it was always revenue, right? Revenue. And then we had a couple of other metrics that we would incentivize them on. And it was generic for the entire, all 25 stores across the country. What we are doing from Jan is that specific stores, based on their specific NPS, based on their specific CSATs, based on specific customer calling, feedback calling, understanding whether the customer, liked his experience or not. All of these are now becoming a lot more valuable to us because what we see is one step back when you are willing to give up revenue for just 1 month or 2 months across very specific stores.
Actually, you don't have
You're able to
also.
It ends up not happening, correct? But that then allows them to take 5 steps forward. And we've tried that in very small pilots. We're going to now take it out across a whole bunch of our stores where we know that we might be hitting certain revenue numbers, but our NPS or our customer experience, everything is suffering in some way or the other. So we're fully focusing on that going forward for the next quarter.
And see, actually, isme the attribution is also very important. That how much accountability does marketing and category or merchandise have if a store is not doing well?
Correct.
If you put the entire onus and the entire blame on the sales team, then that is also wrong because you might have a footfall problem or you might not have the right merchandise. It need not just be a sales problem.
Correct. So one element that you touched upon, which I think maybe if you can elaborate a little bit more, is the whole idea of a NPS score, right? The Net Promoter Score, right? And how do you use the Net Promoter Score not as a lag indicator, but more as a lead indicator to improve your business?
I mean, first of all, there's a benchmark. Okay. Industry typically is at around 40, 45, at least I'm talking about apparel, in the apparel space. We launched NPS about 4 months ago, and we've been around 60 as an NPS score. But that's just the overall company. Once you start breaking it down between new customer and old customer, online versus offline, whether he has shopped online and then come offline, or was he an offline customer then went online, I think all these are indicators, right? So when you speak, so every single NPS score that is negative, which is a detractor, our customer experience team reaches out to them from the head office saying, you've been a detractor, like what went wrong and can we make it right? So that's the constant rigor that we are putting in to make sure that we get the NPS high. But I think, Avnish, as you said, right, it's NPS is one metric. There are many such metrics that you have to keep, constantly at. But NPS is a good way for us to have the customer without any sense of, pressure. I'll give you an example. Google reviews. We get about 1,000 Google reviews every 3 months. Our Google 5-star rating out of that 1,000 was 947 5 stars out of 1,000 customers who reviewed us. So we were all going home happy. We were like, wow, this is great. Not realizing that Google reviews are encouraged by your store teams when they know that the customers had a good experience, saying, sir, aap Google review rating thoda sa acha de dena, please. And then the customer feels also a little bit guilty. He's like, boss, maine to abhi order kiya hai. My shirt is going to come in 7 days, 8 days. I better give this guy a good rating, otherwise I'm going to, have a problem as a customer, right? So NPS, on the other hand, happens a little bit differently. The customer has received the product. 7, 8, 10 days, 2 days later, whatever it is, depending on what he's ordered. 5 days after that, he's worn it. He's probably washed it. Did it shrink? Did it not shrink? Did it fit? Was it right? Was the packaging right? Everything comes in over there. So then you have a customer who potentially could have given you a 5-star rating on Google, but now who's suddenly marked as a detractor saying, I was not happy with the experience. And then you got to keep correcting that. Then that's the evolution of the business. You got to keep pushing, making sure that every extra customer that comes in, new customer that comes in, or even repeat for that matter, is somehow, somewhere being heard. And that's what NPS allows us.
Yeah, but that's a great point. I mean, you can get caught into this whole trap of making and eating your own dog food, right? And I think this is a great way to kind of understand data to the next level, right? In order to sift out what is good, what is bad. So Avnish, now that you're also an investor at BSC, right, and you have a vantage point, both from the perspective of having built CaratLane and maybe seeing this journey, where would you put profitability, right, in this whole concept of this journey of building a business, and when should a business be profitable, and how should we think about profitability in the context of building the business? So how does one think about this part of the
See, starting point is that I think it happens in 3 steps. First, you have to make sure that when you sell a product, are you making money? After you have.
Correct.
Because if that itself is a problem, then I think you might as well go do something else.
Correct.
Right? The next thing is that do you have a way to make your store profitable first? Like the smallest, the minimum denominator which is there, that after 3 months or 6 months, can the store profitable or not? And part of getting the playbook right, that as you open stores, are they all consistently profitable, right? And when you do that, you have to factor in marketing cost, because in a lot of offline businesses, they assume there is no marketing happening.
Correct.
And that makes them profitable. So within the marketing cost, you can figure out where the attribution is that. Then when the stores are profitable and you have enough locations where you can open stores, also be profitable, then it's about making sure that you generate enough cash to each store, which adds up to make sure that your corporate overheads are then taken care of. This is the journey, right? The only other thing I would add in terms of profitability is that, a business needs investments in many areas. Many of these investments happen, a little advance in your journey. You might have to invest in technology, in people, in a factory, depending on the nature of your business. So I don't think you should shy away from doing that or not do that for the sake of profitability. I think what is important is, and you will also do experiments which will not work out. So you can't again say that, "Arey, ye paisa chala gaya." I think what is important is finance person keeps an eye on wastage. Like the silly mistakes or the missed opportunities which you do.
Correct.
And I'll give you, there are lots of examples. Simple things like this campaign is not working, but it's not been stopped and it ran for 2 more days, and those 2 days were completely wasted.
Right.
So if you have a good finance person and they actually are like a battering ram for all these teams, that they keep looking at all areas of wastage and they keep minimizing wastage, I think you should keep an eye on that. Because, money has to be spent to build a business, right? That's why venture capital is needed. Otherwise, every business can be profitable on day one.
Correct. No, I think second time today in the second session of the day, right? We've heard this term that having a good CFO is very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in the previous session, we had the same advice, and this is the second time. So I guess, having a good bean counter who keeps the operating team or is a good business partner, right? To the business.
Including the CEO.
Including the CEO is seems like a very important requirement.